Hello.
Hello, and welcome.
And welcome, everybody, to another episode of
The Super Data Brothers Super Data Show.
That's right. I am Ryan.
And I am Eric.
And we are two real-life brothers who work in the
real
data
life
and analytics industry.
It's true.
So today's show is all about the Gartner Critical Capabilities for Analytics and Business Intelligence Platforms report. It's a mouthful.
Yeah. You know, Ryan, I'm so excited for today's show because, a few weeks ago we covered the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and, that was a great show and people really loved it. But that's more of, where each each company really sits within the market and what their market trajectory is, right?
Yep.
The Critical Capabilities report is, on the other hand, okay, we told you where they sit in the market. The Critical Capabilities report is, what can this tool actually do? What features does it have, and how do those features fit into the market we talked about in the Magic Quadrant?
Bingo. And you are going to see, I think, the difference between the two pretty clearly as we go through this, because the Critical Capabilities report, like you said, that really focuses on what can this stuff actually do. And it doesn't include a lot of things like market momentum, strategy, place in an overall product portfolio. All that stuff factors into the Magic Quadrant. But all that gets stripped away for the Critical Capabilities report. And we're just looking at the software and the software's capabilities. And we're not thinking about who's got the best sales team, who's got the best marketing team, who's got the most hype. It's all that gets boiled away, and we're just looking at feature functionality in this report.
Who's the best at bundling? That's not just what can the tool do.
Right, but it's a big deal in the Magic Quadrant. Like Amazon and Oracle, they have this advantage. I'm just picking those two. I mean, others too, but they have this advantage in the Magic Quadrant because they bundle, Oracle in particular, which I think does have a really nice BI suite now, but setting that aside, they have all these pre-built, and they bundle it with their business apps that you might be using Oracle HR Cloud, and BI comes with it, right? And that doesn't count in the Critical Capabilities.
No.
Okay, so before we get started, though, I think we maybe each have an announcement to make. So to kick things off here, I have this nice little water bottle that has the Good Data logo on it. So I'm happy to announce that I have actually accepted a job as the...
What?
I know. Can you believe it? I'm employed.
I know.
As the Vice President of Product Strategy at Good Data. And so... it's super exciting. Good Data is very unique. I hate it when people say very unique, but I just said it. Good Data is a unique platform in analytics, and they do things differently, which is what attracted me to them in the first place. They have a different approach. The tech is very modern. It's code focused. It's CI/CD, DevOps. Analytics is code. It really aligns with our philosophy here on the Super Data Show, and so. I'm super pumped to announce that I'm working with them, and really looking forward to doing it going forward. Now, what does that mean for the Super Data Show?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's still totally our thing, owned by me and Ryan.
Yep. Good Data is super supportive of our work here. I think it's one of the things how we kind of got on their radar in the first place is our work with on Super Data Show, and so you can expect the exact same show that you've already gotten from us with the same honest takes on the data and analytics industry. So that's not going to change. Especially
since me and Ryan, we both work for organizations, for companies, but they're separate companies. So it's not like you're not hearing one vision. You're hearing Ryan, who works for a vendor, and you're hearing me, who works for a university. So you're still getting both perspectives,
Absolutely. And we got people saying congrats in the chat. Thank you. Now, this is a live stream, of course.
Yeah.
So if you have things to say, get them into the chat, and we will make sure that we shout you out as we go through it. So, Eric, I think you kind of have an announcement, too.
I do have an announcement. So recently, I have moved into, before I was more in a technical BI developer position, I have moved into a managerial position over my department. So not the whole department, but over my reporting group. So that's my announcement. This is as of this week. I think Wednesday was the first official day where I'm in charge of this group. So that's very exciting for me. Also, it's very exciting for me and for the show because some of the things we've been talking about for the past this is episode 10, and we had a bonus episode for the past 3 months plus, maybe, I feel has prepared me to kind of take on a more leadership role. And now I've been talking about this stuff for months, and like now I'm finally in a position to maybe implement it.
Actually do it, right?
Actually do it, especially some of the stuff we've talked about, like franchise model of analytics, right?
Uh-huh.
I foresee that making a huge difference within our analytics department in the university, an independent semantic layer, right?
Yeah.
I think that's big. Things move a little slower at the university, so I don't think we'll be implementing that right away. But we can start. We can get things ready for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So once there becomes a clear, like, oh, this is the tool we need, that like we'll be able to move on to it because we've been prepped for it.
Yep.
So
yeah, thanks, Kevin. Miko, good to see you here. Kevin Ducat, friend of the show. Lots of familiar faces. All right, so both Dolly brothers, I guess, moving on up.
Moving on up. Yeah.
And that's really one of our goals for the show, actually, is to equip you with the knowledge so that if you do want to take a leadership path in data and analytics, like you can go in with an opinion, right?
Something to say. That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
Have an opinion about it.
Right.
Doesn't even necessarily need to be our opinion.
No.
Just have an opinion.
No, you can go in and say, I watched this podcast and I disagree with everything those guys say. And so that's why we're not going to do it that way.
Uh-huh.
But that's, have an opinion. Okay, so speaking of opinions, Gartner has an opinion.
They do.
And let's jump into it. So the Gartner Critical Capabilities report. I made a slide deck for this. And so let's just dive in. So what are we going to talk about today? Excuse me. We're going to talk about, first of all, how is this not the MQ? Right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows the MQ. I feel like this report
it's
is...
a big MQ is the one everyone cares about.
Yeah, this one is less well known. So we're going to talk about how is this not the MQ? How's it different? We hit on the main differences in the intro, but we'll reinforce that. Then we're going to talk about understanding the criteria, right? So how do they determine these rankings in the Critical Capabilities report? We'll talk about the key findings of the report. We'll look at the rankings, and then we'll talk a little bit about some vendors of interest that I think you should know about, including, of course, good data is now in the report. And so I hope to show you the ways in which I can, even though I work there, I can put on my objective hat and talk about what's good and what's bad about good data. Alongside the rest of these vendors. You can judge whether or not you believe it, but I will do my best. Okay. So how is this not just the Magic Quadrant? We talked about it in the intro. Eric really teed it up nicely. The Magic Quadrant is more of like a total ranking of the companies, okay? So it's more than just the software. It's the total experience working with a vendor. How easy are they to work with? Are there available resources? If you Google a question, can you get it? Are there answers on Stack Overflow? All of that fits into the Magic Quadrant, okay? Does not factor into the critical capabilities. This is about what can this tool do, and it cuts out the rest of that stuff, okay? So it's really, what are the software's capabilities, and how does it fit into Gartner's personas? And Gartner defines both of these things in this document, okay? The capabilities are what can the software do or what should it do. It's Gartner's view on what capabilities should a piece of enterprise analytics and business intelligence software have. And then we've got the personas, okay? Who is the software built for? And at the nexus of those two things, you get these rankings. That's kind of what it falls out of. So Gartner has identified capabilities. They've identified personas. You may agree or disagree with the capabilities, whether or not they're important, whether or not Gartner has the right ones, whether or not Gartner's personas are accurate, right? That's up for debate. But this is the process of how they come up with it.
Yep. So those personas, it's like what something that I've like along the lines of like Debbie the developer, like that sort of stuff. Is that
sort of? Yeah. We'll talk. I mean, I have them here, so we'll talk about them, right?
Gotcha.
We talked about this in the Magic Quadrant. There are 3 new capabilities this year, okay? The metric store, data science integration, and data collaboration. Those were not on the Magic Quadrant before, and they were not in the Critical Capabilities report. And of course, these two things are related. So the Critical Capabilities report helps drive rankings on the Magic Quadrant, but it is not solely determinative of rankings on the Magic Quadrant, as you will see. When we compare how people rank here versus where they are on the Magic Quadrant, you might be surprised. Okay, so the new critical capabilities. This, if you watch our Magic Quadrant video, link in the description, you will see, you will be familiar with this. But just baseline, what are these? A metric store. This is a topic I'm super passionate about, and it is because it's not a new idea. You'll see that we've talked about this a ton on the show in the last few episodes, right? With Ina from Illumex, and we talked to Elif from AtScale, and it came up when we were talking with Chris Tabb last week. The idea of having a semantic layer that sits between your database and your downstream applications, whether they're AI, BI, software apps, whatever it is, to help give structure to your data, make it discoverable and understandable to human beings and now large language models. That is that critical capability. Data science integration, it is what it sounds like. How do you integrate with data science tools? And collaboration. I'm very interested in drilling into with Gartner, what do they mean by collaboration? Because I have a vision of collaboration that comes out of my time at Count, which is really about people getting into a live interactive tool and working together in real time to solve data problems, and how can the tool support that interaction? And I don't know that that's 100% what they're talking about here.
Yeah. Ryan, looking at these new critical capabilities, first of all, I agree with them completely.
Yes.
Yes, totally. Especially, as we've been talking about on the show, the metric store. The metric store, because everyone's had the problems, and we're doing it right now. You create start a new project. Okay, we're going to model it. Where are we going to model it?
Yeah.
Is this going to be a Power BI report? Is this going to be a Cognos report? Is this going to be a QuickSight report or anything like that? And then your modeling is trapped in that ecosystem. And we've all been, anyone who's been part of a BI department knows the a billion tools out there, and there's going to be new tools. So it's looking at this list, the metric store, number one. Collaboration, really important too. Data science integration, good. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one I feel.
Of course that's on there. That's not news to anybody.
And the way in which they work together, right? This metric store semantic layer can help drive data science integration, right? These new capabilities are not just three individual things. I feel like there's kind of a theme or point to them all. Miko says every 3 years it's a new set of leaders. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, just this week I became one of those new sets of leaders. So.
Yeah,
and we're going to implement all the things I want.
So let's right. That's the goal. So let's talk about the personas and the capabilities for a second, okay? So there's 4 personas. I won't read through this, right? But there's the data scientist persona. I think one of the things that Gartner recognizes is that a lot more people than just BI developers and data analysts now need to use and interact with the BI platform. And that's where those new capabilities come in. I think that's really part of what they recognize is collaboration or the metric store / semantic layer. That's all about branching out from just, hey, this is a place to go build a dashboard, to making it more of a central hub for insight, discovery, and distribution, no matter what sort of end user UX that happens to be through, right? And so the data scientist now needs to interact with the BI tool. And I agree with this going forward, especially as the BI tool collaboration and semantic capabilities mature over the next few years. That will become an important place for the data scientist to go find data. The analytics developer, this is us, right? This is what you and I, how we started our careers, building Cognos models, building Cognos reports. This is your person who is developing things as a profession, is what you see there. And then we've got the business analyst. This is more the self-service user. And then the augmented consumer. So the augmented consumer, this to me, in my mind, is the most... this is the one that is the fuzziest to me. What this really means in Gartner's perspective is this is the person who comes in and is working with some sort of machine expert system in order to like find
Okay.
content, understand content, build content, that sort of thing, is really kind of the augmented consumer. I think this would also be where you might put the you see like the things that wade into this persona you see here: automation of insights, collaboration, natural language query, and storytelling. So this is a lot of like the ThoughtSpot, chatbots, Watson, Ask Data in Tableau, the large language models that every ABI tool is going to add over the next 12 months. This is kind of where that plays in. So these are the 4 personas that Gartner is using as the baseline to judge, okay, how good are these tools, right? Is how well do they serve these 4 personas? Now, we can argue about whether they're accurate. Are there more? Are there fewer, right? But this is what Gartner has identified.
I think it's interesting, these 4 personas, because the first 3, I think, exist and are identifiable today, right?
Yeah.
All these roles exist, and you could argue that to some degree that the first 2 roles, the data science and the analytics developer, the lines shall become blurred.
Yes.
More data scientists will find themselves being analytics developers, and with the advent of new technologies, analytics developers will find themselves integrating data science. But the 4th one, the collaborative consumer, I think that's pretty forward looking, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're evaluating something forward working, because I don't think that exists today, right?
It's really like, I think it's something that people have been trying for a while, but I just don't think, this is kind of what we talked about when we were going on about large language models in a couple episodes ago. It's just like, people have been trying this for a long time, this augmented, I log in and the expert system suggests correlations to me and it builds visualizations for me and that sort of thing, helps me find data. I just feel like there's none of them been that good. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I think there's been a desire for this person to exist,
Yes,
more than they have actually existed out in the wild. But as we've discussed with GPT and large language models, I think that is going to change fast.
yes,
Because these systems really, it's just, we can go on and on about it.
and I'm sure we will. It's so easy to go down that tangent.
I know. We've got David Marmer here. So David, good to see you, Dave. So he says, I believe collaboration should be the concept of group thinking in an iterative exercise that allows for new data and new metrics to be added by members. It's like a war room or a huddle room in a place you collaborate already, and it's not some other place to go in the tool. So you see, different than just co-creating a dashboard. Yeah. I think that's a good vision, right? It needs to be a place where you can come together to actually plan and execute things in the BI tool, right? And I especially like this, like new data, new metrics. So let's, talking about Count, which is a startup. That's what the canvas really could be used for. Is like, we're going to come here. It's like our war room. We're going to do our planning. We're going to do a jam session, figure out what we need to build. Then we're going to build the prototype with live data. We're going to figure out, okay, is this what we need? Isn't this what we need? We iterate super fast. And then in Count's case, a lot of times they end up taking it out of there and putting it into like a Power BI or a Tableau in order to fully productionalize it. And so it's not totally this unity of experience like what you're talking about, David, but it's definitely a cool vision. And then we've got Chris Banks saying, I look at the augmented consumer correlating to augmented analytics, which in prior years was a use case in the critical capabilities report. Yeah. It really, that's really what it is. And you'll see as we look at kind of the capabilities, what they are. So there's 12 of them, 12. The analytics catalog, automated insights, collaboration, data prep, data science integration, data source connectivity, and then data storytelling, data viz, governance, metric store, natural language querying, and good old reporting. And this is like, so you can see, obviously, this is a really broad set of capabilities that Gartner is arguing tools, analytics and business intelligence tools should possess. And no tool is excellent at all of these. And that's one of the interesting things about this. I see Miko cheering that storytelling made it. I feel the same way, right? Miko and I are both big data storytelling fans, and so the It's great that it's on the list and is viewed by Gartner as important. So it is again the nexus of, if you think it's kind of fit in your, let's build in our heads a cube, okay, and these are the measures, and the dimensions are for personas, right? And so it's like the nexus of those things are how you come up with these rankings. So I think this list makes sense and it's pretty comprehensive. And you can argue whether or not do these pieces belong in the BI suite or do they belong somewhere else. Totally valid argument. But I think, ideally, if you're spending a lot of money on a BI platform that you like, ideally, yeah, it's going to do all of this stuff for you. All right. So what are Gartner's key findings and recommendations on the critical capabilities report? I paraphrased them here for you, right? So the first one is that lots of people use BI platforms, not just data and business analysts. This is kind of a change. When we talk about on this show the end of a
supply chain.
Thank you. The supply chain era. This is kind of it, right? It's not just your Tableau Pro churning out dashboards. That's not the only person who needs to interact with this anymore. And the only way to interact with it can't just be through a dashboard or report builder. You now need to have different experiences for different audiences, APIs for embedding and APIs for automatic, triggers and different applications and integrations with data science. It's not just data analysts and business analysts. They also point out lots of people have way too many BI tools and governance is a nightmare. And then finally, self-service analytics isn't or aren't getting the job done anymore. And this is what we talk about, Eric, the end of the supply chain era.
Yep.
So I will tell you, I think both of us have been on a journey with Gartner where starting in 2016, when they reshuffled everything to really prioritize the business analyst, data analyst experience, self-service analytics,
the quick viz,
right,
the get it out in 3 days way of doing things. Yeah.
I really found myself at odds with Gartner, but there's this pendulum swinging that is different, kind of back towards my philosophy. Now we got to make sure it doesn't swing too far, and that's part of what the new semantic layer approach, the API-driven approach, integrations, application integrations, CI/CD analytics as code, is hopefully designed to help prevent us from going too locked down.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the way things are going, and so
we can't go back to submit a ticket, wait 4 months.
No.
We need some of the advantages of that system, like the control and like knowing the data is right, and the data accessibility. Well, where it lives, accessible, not accessible to the end user. But we can't go back to that. That's the slow pipeline.
No, we can't. I mean, that will be death. If you try to centralize and in doing so, you make it so that your end users can't get what they need in a timely way, you're just reintroducing the problems of 2010, right? You can't do that. Miko says, should we even keep saying BI in 2023? I mean, that's a good question. I think I use it. I prefer the term business intelligence because I'm old and that's what I grew up with. I don't know.
I don't know.
But that's the term I use. But it's a good question. Like, is there a better term? I don't know.
Call it analytics, but.
Right.
I don't know. It's funny. Like the term BI almost died until Microsoft called their tool Power BI.
Yes.
And BI's back, baby.
I'm starting to hear too some talk of like decision support, and decision support is what BI was called before it was BI.
Really?
That's the term from like the 90s. It was decision support.
Interesting.
I've heard that thrown around a little bit, which is pretty wild.
Maybe I'll start throwing it around when I'm talking to people.
I mean, it's everything old is new again, right? So
it's true.
Like, why not? Like
OLAP is back, baby.
OLAP is back. I can't tell you how many if you follow the data conversation on LinkedIn, how many people are talking about OLAP and semantic layers and metrics. It's just blowing my mind, And like the Zoomers are wearing flared pants. It's like we're right back to the olden days. Yeah, Peter Morris says decision intelligence, decision science. I do think that is, maybe that's the direction we're headed. David Marmer says, there's going to be this challenge with the proliferation of data catalogs, metrics catalogs, analytics catalogs, databases, code, the life cycle and transformation of metadata, compounded by private, semi-private, marketplace, and public data sources. Yes. I mean, we're going to have to, I think we're going to have to combine kind of the best of the agile, move fast approach with a real refocus on governance and sustainability over the long term. And that's kind of where I hope the semantic layer can help fit in, because, a semantic layer, depending on how you're doing it, can be a bridge between all these systems and can, loop in databases, but also, non-database systems and knowledge from non-database systems. And so it's a very interesting space to be watching. And that was part of our conversation with Ina, which I really recommend you watch. If you want to see someone who is like next level thinking about semantic layers, watch our episode from 2 weeks ago with Ina from Illumex. I mean, it was really, I really enjoyed talking to her. Sometimes you talk to someone and you're like, man, this person is like so smart. And she was one of those people. So what does Gartner recommend here, right? You embrace multi-persona nature of BI, okay? Improve composability and governance with a vendor-neutral metrics layer. This is where the term headless comes in, right? So if you do like Microsoft's metrics layer, I don't think they truly have one, but certainly they're going to have one. But if it only works with Microsoft tools, that goes against what Gartner recommends. They say you need an open metrics layer that any tool can access, and that you complement self-service, what they might call pull, right, with alert and app-based, what you might call push BI, okay? So pull BI is, I need to know something. I have a question, I go in and answer it. Push BI is pushing to the systems that you use independent of BI, whether that's your email and the old school bursting with a PDF, or whether that's, hey, you're in Salesforce and you get an alert through Salesforce from your BI system, right? That's the push. You need to combine those, and it needs to be driven by a headless metrics layer. The headlessness means that any tool can access it. So this is something, Good Data has, Illumex does it as kind of, Good Data is a BI suite that has a headless metrics layer. You've got AtScale and Illumex and other companies, what are they called? Cube.js and a few others that do this kind of headless metrics layer. But this is the idea that like you could point Tableau at it, and you can write SQL to it, and you can have an API accessing it, and you get the same data, right? That's the headless nature of it.
Yeah, is that in Corda too? And Corda does that
sort of, yeah. So it's to an outside system, like I'm not super up to speed on it, like in Corda's API access, but like to an outside system in Corda looks like a Postgres database. So like Mike Nader from Incorda, if you go back a couple of years, Mike Nader and I were the first people that ever point Cognos to Incorda. And even though Incorda is a BI tool, we were building reports and dashboards in Cognos because of kind of this headless approach, right?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the first hint of where the industry might have been going. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. This stood way out to me in their summary. I just wanted to highlight this, right? The metric store has been added as a critical capability to emphasize that analytics and business intelligence is first and foremost a system of measurement. This was true in the early days of the market when semantic layers modeled, measures, and dimensional attributes, and it is true today. However, now ABI platforms are expected to deliver a more application-neutral experience where metrics can be accessed by any other application. This is a very interesting statement to me because this is kind of going against the previously dominant ethos, the supply chain ethos of, the BI tool is just for visualizing it, right? It is not the kind of system of measurement, The system of measurement in the supply chain, as we have discussed, is of course 3,500 independent, slightly varying views created in Snowflake, and then you slap Tableau on top of it. That's not what we're talking about anymore. We're talking about the BI tool again being the source for your official metrics and your official system of measurement, right? It's very interesting kind of change to go back to the way we may have done things in the past. So the top takeaways, and then after this, we're going to dive into kind of actually look at the rankings and talk about the vendors and all that sort of stuff. But this all sets the context for you. The pendulum swing back towards governance and metric stores. However, and this is a little bit of our editorializing mixed in with what it says. The advent of APIs, agile, distributed org structures, means that we're not going back to the business objects universe and Cognos Framework Manager days, right? You may have a centrally modeled metric store, but it's not going to be like it was then, where the metric store is tied to one and only one front-end experience and can only be accessed through that front-end experience. It doesn't play nice with any other tools, and when someone wants a tiny tweak in it, you tell them to get in line and wait 2.5 years for you to add the new column. That is not what we're going back to. And if you find yourself in that position, you're doing it wrong. Okay? We need to serve more than just dashboard developers and dashboard consumers to be relevant in the 2020s, right? That BI experience will not be relevant in the 2020s if that is all you're able to deliver. Whether you're a piece of software or you're a BI tool or you're a BI or data department, right? You need to move beyond just doing that. That is going to be no different than if you were just building paginated reports in 2013, okay? BI platforms that serve metrics in a headless way have an advantage. So that means, again, not tied front end to back end or metrics to front end. And as we say over and over here on the Super Data Show, the supply chain era is what, Eric?
It's over.
It's over, baby. Okay, so friend of the show, Paul Mendelson, has a quote here. I would agree that there will be a metadata model, but it's likely going to be accessed and modified by an AI application. I expect AI to intelligently join and model disparate data on the fly. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. I think, again, as we say on the show, like there's this, when it comes to AI, it's just like, it's hard to say exactly what it's going to do. We all have our ideas. I think this is very likely, but, I
feel like this is some sort of endpoint. But at least, 10 years from now, who knows? But at least in the immediate future, it's going to need that. It's going to need the human layer. The AI. There's going to be a human layer on top of the semantic layer to guide the AI, right? Yeah. And Miko says, she's just still fairly surprised that BI is this hot. It's weird, Miko, because you and I have very similar paths through the industry in some ways. And I feel like it's hotter now than it's been in a while. It felt like, if you go back to the big data era, it kind of felt like BI was not a thing, and the idea was like, we're just going to be throwing data into Hadoop, and then there's just going to be some lightweight viz tool on top of it, and all this BI stuff we were doing, like forget it. Yeah, and boy, is that is not what has come to be. And so I feel like BI is hotter now than ever. Well, just as an example, that little plug here, Data Day Texas 2024, January of next year, Eric and I will be presenting. And Data Day Texas, for the first time ever, is adding like a BI track, which they've never had. So here we are. It's going to be 2024, and conferences are adding BI tracks. It's very different. Paul says people are burnt out on self-service. They want data, and they want it without working too hard. Amen. All right. I just want to throw this out one more time. The franchise model. Why is Gartner saying all of this? What is driving this change? It is exactly what Paul says. People are burnt out on self-service, but we need a new way of providing high quality metrics. And so Gartner's take on it is the franchise model, where you have a centralized center of excellence that maintains the platform, but then each domain or department has its own instantiation of that platform that may combine some of their own tools. So HR maybe loves Tableau, marketing loves Domo, customer service uses Power BI,
Supply chain uses Cognos. If you have a headless BI hub, that's fine. All those tools can access the metrics from the headless BI hub. And so that's really what this is all about. So and I don't want to belabor this point, but I just want to remind you, this is also, when you talk about kind of the furthest, most cutting edge version of this, in my mind, is Zhamac's data mesh. I love Zhamak. I love the data mesh. It's such a great idea. People will argue, well, is there any centralization in a data mesh or not? Obviously, canonically, there isn't. This is kind of Gartner's take on it, where it's still a little more centralized, but still a large degree of decentralization.
Yeah. I personally, I love thinking of it this way, the franchise model, because it's like you can think about it, you can explain it to people.
Yeah.
Like a restaurant franchise, right?
It's
like
so
the center
easy.
of excellence, like the central department, that they run the platform, right? They make sure all the infrastructure is there, right? So you want to open you're a marketing department, you don't have any analytics, you want to add analytics. You go to the center of excellence. What do you get? You get templates. You get, okay, here are your options. It's like handouts. Like, okay, here's how you train. Here's how you train users. It's like, so it's literally like you're handing someone an entire franchise package, like to open a Subway, except you're opening your own BI practice for your department. I think thinking of it that way, that'll make it makes it so much easier for the departments that you're trying to onboard to this new way of thinking to understand it.
It's like BI in a box almost, right?
It is. It's like they're signing up. It's like they're signing up for to open the box and get the whole package. Like, oh, so here's how we can do training. Do we want to pick the Tableau option or the Power BI option?
Right.
I think we're more of a Power BI department, and then it's really like an entire package for the department. And I think the buy-in from departments, if you present it to them this way and you have the materials ready for them, will be pretty big.
Yep. Yeah, I like it too. It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's actually look at the rankings. Are you ready? Here we go. So I'm not going to read through all of these. Obviously, that would be a pretty boring show. But you can see that they've ranked them by persona, right? So who's the best for the analytics developer persona? Who's the best for the business analyst persona? They also provide a table that ranks them by each of the capabilities. Now, I didn't want to just screenshot every chart from this thing and share it in a podcast, right? Because Gartner puts a lot of effort into this stuff. And if I just give you the whole report in podcast format, that's not cool. So, some of the visual, there are additional cool visualizations that you might want to look at that, you got to look at the report to look at. And I think it's like the Magic Quadrant insofar as I think if you Google it, you'll find some vendors, I believe, have it available for free. So you can just download it, right? But you can see here the different rankings. So like MicroStrategy, Oracle, Tibco, Pyramid, they rank the best in analytics developer. Someone like Amazon Web Services, ranks pretty low in analytics developer, but maybe would rank higher in a different for a different one of these personas, right? Now, one thing you'll notice right away that's interesting, and I'll talk about it in a bit, is some unexpected things. Like you look at how high Oracle ranks for both of these. I don't think Oracle doesn't have the feeling in the industry right now of being someone who's at the cutting edge. But if you think back to the Magic Quadrant report, they were number 2 for completeness of vision. And so, so there are surprises to be had here, I guess is my point, that go against what is the common wisdom in our industry. And I think that is because things are changing and people's perceptions haven't necessarily caught up with the way things are headed with a lot of the developments that we've talked about so far in today's show. But you'll also notice, right, like in the Magic Quadrant, Microsoft is crushing everybody. Yeah. But if you look at this, they're ranked highly on these two, but they're not number 1. You would expect them maybe to be number 1 for every persona, but you'll find that that's not the case. Why? Because this is we'll go back to what we said earlier, only looking at software capabilities and personas, and it's not taking into account all that market momentum, perception, marketing, right? Microsoft's clearly crushing it when it comes to that. But the actual piece of software that they build, Power BI, is not number 1 in all or even any persona. Okay, so here's the other two, the Augmented Consumer and the Data Scientist. So those are our 4 personas. You can see the rankings here. And now I mean, just looking at this, I don't know if anything jumps out at you, Eric, but I'm struck by, first of all, Oracle's strong positioning and everything, and then Pyramid, and we'll talk about Pyramid more in a second.
Is it what, top of two?
I mean, it's quite interesting where Pyramid fits in. So remember, looking at this, okay, the critical capabilities is not the Magic Quadrant. If you look at critical capabilities, Oracle and Pyramid should probably are ranked way higher than Tableau or Microsoft. Salesforce/Tableau in particular does okay on these rankings, but is not amazing, right? If you look at Click, the highest Click ranks on any individual persona is 5th for Augmented Consumer, okay? They rank no higher than 5th on any of these personas. Yet they're the clear number 3 in the Magic Quadrant, okay? So I personally find I like this one better because this is what I care about, right? It's important. Things like market momentum and sales strategies and all that stuff is important. But what I care about as someone who's passionate about this industry is what can these tools actually do? And I think the Critical Capabilities report delivers what can these tools actually do in a way that the Magic Quadrant touches on, but it's only a part of what the Magic Quadrant offers. It's not the whole shebang. So we're going to look at some individual vendors now, and then we'll take some questions at the end. And I think maybe we'll give away a T-shirt. If we are going to do a T-shirt giveaway, I just decided. If you want to get a T-shirt, how can you get it, Eric? Where do you need to go?
You need to go over to our YouTube channel.
That's correct. Why don't you pop the YouTube banner there? We only give away T-shirts to people who are watching on YouTube. And while you're there, why don't you click the subscribe button and go ahead and click the bell so you get notifications when we do new content. Give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. It is very important. We are trying to grow this channel on YouTube, and the only way to do it is if people are watching us on YouTube. So we appreciate it. Okay. So let's take a look.
Tell them what they need to do at YouTube.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You need to type in hashtag Super Data Brothers, all one word, in the YouTube chat in order to be registered for the T-shirt giveaway. Okay? So we're going to do that at the end of the show in about 15 minutes. Okay? Hashtag Super Data Brothers in the chat, all one word, will get you entered to
at YouTube
to win a T-shirt. Okay, now Pyramid. Who are these folks?
Yeah,
I don't mean to, and I don't mean that. I mean that in a positive way. Like what? So let's look at the rankings here. Okay, Pyramid Analytics #1 for Augmented Consumer. Pyramid Analytics #2 for Data Scientist. Pyramid Analytics #1 for Business Analyst. Pyramid Analytics #4 for Analytics Developer. So I will admit, I didn't have. They weren't. Of course, I've known about Pyramid Analytics for a long time, but the huge jump they took in the Magic Quadrant this year, and then the way that they rank in the critical capabilities was very surprising to me. The lowest they ranked was 4th in any persona. So again, if we were to just if the Magic Quadrant image and the critical capabilities report were a perfect mirror of one another, I would expect Pyramid Analytics to be the #1 ranked position, right? Because the lowest they rank is 4th in any of these personas. It's very, very impressive. So what does Gartner say is good about them? Cloud agnostic, deploy anywhere, right? That is, I personally, that would be a crucial capability for me for any BI platform that I was buying if I were a CDAO and I'm evaluating BI platforms. Because what if someday I want to break up with Microsoft, right? But my BI platform is only deployable on Microsoft. I'm in a tough spot. So Gartner calls out data blending, data modeling, natural language generation, chatbots, predictive, all tailored to various personas. So I did a little digging and I checked out, what does Pyramid have to offer in some of these different capabilities. And let's just look at data modeling. They have different data modeling experiences depending on who you are and your level of sophistication. So they've got Smart Model, Direct Model, Model Lite, and Model Pro. We don't need to go into what all of them do. I mean, they're named well, so you can guess what they do based on what they're called. But my point is, this is graduated modeling and data blending experience depending on your level of sophistication as a user. I really like this. I like tools that do things this way, that have an experience that is both that can work for me, right? Where I say, like, I don't want your BI tool training wheels. I want to go in and build it all myself because I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what an outer join is, and I know when I do and don't want to use one. But to have something that is like, hey, you build it for me, for people who are at that level of sophistication. And Gartner also calls out automated narratives, like they explain the difference, lots of augmented data features that sound very rich here. We should have these guys on the show sometime to just show us what it is that they do, because I've watched a little bit on YouTube. I've looked at their documentation. It sounds very impressive. Gartner's cautions. This says Metrics Store is headless. That's a typo. Is not headless. That's one of Gartner's cautions. And then also the lack of code-based tooling for like data ops, CI/CD, analytics as code. The platform is not managed in that way. And so, but I mean, this is just a really impressive showing. And so, like, I think Pyramid is obviously doing something right, and is aligned with Gartner in Gartner's view of the market and Gartner's personas, and really, I think, just an impressive job here. And again, like this is one of those ones, I think, I know Pyramid's going to have a big presence at the Gartner London conference. I will be at the Gartner London conference. So if you're going to Gartner London, this is probably one to check out. Amazon Web Services. I have an echo down here, and every time I say the name of this company, the echo starts talking. It's driving me crazy. So AWS, I have this taglined as bringing back a blast from the past. So AWS, pretty low scores overall. They especially get dinged in the report for having poor visualization options, but they get QuickSight Q is viewed really positively. And I think on this show, we like QuickSight Q a lot. Yeah. And one of the reasons is because it's got it's feature rich, has great APIs and embeddability, but really it's got nice administration features, and it's not a total black box. So a lot of these BI tools have this like black box NLG, NLQ chatbot that users can talk to, but you can't tell what the hell is it doing? What questions is it answering? How often? How well is it answering them as an administrator or developer? Amazon does offer that. So you can go in and you can curate data sets.
What means what? Yep.
Yes.
What means what? If a user searches for something, they can be like, no, I meant this other thing. And then like the admin can see what people are saying, like, oh, this means this, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can actually control it. It's not just, hey, Watson, do stuff for me. And you don't know what Watson's doing, which is basically how Cognos does it. Mm-hmm. Get a load of this paragraph, though. I wanted to highlight this for all of our doubters out there. QuickSight delivers an increasingly sought-after capability to enable users to select from prompts to filter reports that provides scheduled delivery of scalable, serverless, best-in-class, parameterized reporting with PDF data exports, displaying dozens of filters and strong mobile UX for any screen size. What do we call this feature again?
Paginated reporting.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about.
I think it's because I haven't seen this quote. It's interesting because we did a review of this, I think, last month sometime. So if you go into the YouTube archive, you can see our QuickSight deep dive. And one of the things that ICE called out specifically as a differentiator for QuickSight is that their paginated reporting is decent. You know, it's not as robust as the old school BI tools like Cognos or any of the other ones from back then, but it exists and you can do stuff with it, and it works, and it's way easier to use than the tools from back then. Again, you can't do everything, but it's interesting that they called this out because we called it out. Hey, this could make a difference, because people don't believe us, but there's lots of people who just need to get a PDF every Friday, and it's going to be 20 years from now, and that is not going to change.
Yeah, I know, and it's I will tell you, people big enterprise clients ask for this, and the fact that it's never really been delivered in a serious way through the now leader, the supply chain era leaders, is a problem. And Amazon, to their credit, has stepped up and delivered it. And so I wanted to highlight this quote because it agrees with what we say, but because I do think it's important, and I think tools are going to need it in the future. And the beauty of kind of this headless approach, if you take the headless, if your BI platform has a headless metrics layer, is like you can use a BI tool that has this capability, even if your primary BI tool doesn't, right? And that's kind of just one example of the advantage of the headless approach. Miko says, I feel generative AI will change the PDF cult. I think it's going to take a big dent out of it. I do.
But I think it'll always, like, coming from someone who works at a university, right? Anything involving government, you just need a plain old report, right? Yeah. A lot of stuff involving students, you need to send someone their grades or an internal report on their grades, that sort of thing. That, I mean, my domain is education, so those are my examples. But in every domain, there's something like that where you just need a PDF, and someone may not necessarily want to go in every Friday to like ask ChatGPT for like, oh, what's this department's numbers? They just want to see it so they can go to their meeting and share the PDF at their meeting. Right. So like it will take a dent out of it. There's a lot of stuff people are using PDFs for that's going to go away. Right.
Well, then you'll be able to say to ChatGPT, hey, I need a PDF every Friday.
I need a PDF exactly. That's exactly right. So like it'll eat some of PDF's lunch a little bit, but
but
I totally agree with that.
I think Miko's expectations will change drastically in the next 1 to 2 years. I mean, the stuff I'm using GPT for in my personal life, Jane is getting tired of it. Jane's my wife. When I say, we'll be talking about something and I'll be like, who I'm going to ask? And she just rolls her eyes at me. But that is, because it really is impressive. This LinkedIn user, this is friend of the show, Tom Wilczek. Agree, Eric. There will always be people that just want it handed to them no matter what, right? And I think what we're going to see is that the person they ask to hand it to them is going to be a large language model.
Yep.
Reminder, Tshirt giveaway soon. So get that hashtag Super Data Brothers, all one word, into the chat if you want to be entered to win a Super Data Brothers T-shirt. Like, let's say I have one on. Whoop, there you go. Super Data Brothers T-shirt. There you go. Eric's manly chest. Okay. Good data. So again, this is now my employer. Happy to announce that. Super pumped to be working at Good Data. So welcome to the Magic Quadrant and Critical Capabilities Reports Good Data. This is their first year on it in a while. Good Data was on it a long time ago. And now they're back. So what does Gartner say is good about Good Data? That it's a unique approach. This is what I like about it and why I joined. It's the open metrics layer, API first. It integrates with everything, governance, automation at scale. It's really analytics as code. So if you're in like the data engineering, analytics engineering thing, this is a BI platform that you manage with code the same way that you're managing your transformations in DBT, right? So the Gartner calls out that DevOps, analytics as code, and CI/CD make Good Data stand out. They're unique in this report. And they're highly complementary to existing BI investments. So, they play with your existing BI investment. If you like this approach and you want to start doing things this way, but you need to, but you already have a bunch of money into Tableau, well, they play nicely together because of the headless metrics layer. Now, Good Data's cautions. Good Data's investments are very developer-centric. The classic BI experience of I'm a data analyst and I'm going to go in and build a dashboard, or I'm just going to go in and click on I'm going to have a couple on-screen slicers and slice a dashboard, is subpar. And like that is 100% true. Like it's not, if you compare a Tableau dashboard to a Good Data dashboard is not as good as a Tableau dashboard. It just isn't, right? And the augmented and data science experiences require custom development. There's no out-of-the-box capabilities. So again, because Good Data is an open API-based platform, it's very easy if you have the developer skills to take some other technology and embed it in good data, or take good data and embed it in some other technology, but it's not doing this stuff for you out of the box, right? So Ian McDonald asks, if good data is so code-centric, how come they scored so low on the analytic developer persona? So the analytic developer persona, if you look at the criteria, which is actually, if we scroll way back up, and it says here what drives the analytic developer, right? So it's reporting, data source connectivity, governance, and metrics store. So this is where good data scored the highest, but 40% of the score for analytics developer is driven by your standardized reporting capabilities, and good data doesn't have standardized reporting capabilities today. And so if you look at these three things, I think good data would score highly on data source connectivity, governance, and metrics store, but
yeah,
get
40%.
Get zero for reporting, and that's what drove their just okay analytics developer overall score, right? So I would say, I think that this is going to be, I would say my prediction is that that what you see as being analytics developer, like you notice what's not in here is like any of what we talked about, analytics as code, CI/CD, maybe that falls under a combination of governance and metrics store, right? Maybe spread between those. But my prediction is that those will become more important over the next few years, and Gartner will start calling them out more explicitly in these reports. But for right now, if you want my analysis of like, well, why isn't good data the top for analytics developer? Because if you look at this list of stuff, you would say, well, good data should be like number one for analytics developer. Look at all these awesome developer tools. And it's because Gartner's definition of developer and like what these tools are don't 100%
what they're
line
targeting.
up. Yeah. It's just it's a mismatch between the persona and like what good data is what good data is offering, right?
Yeah. So Miko says, so it's tool agnostic, right?
Yeah, I mean,
For
so
reporting.
the idea behind good data is like it's a BI platform, but you can access it from anywhere. You can access the metrics layer from anywhere. So you don't have to use their dashboarding tool. If you want to use a different dashboarding tool, go for it.
So you could have, so let me understand, you could have one model, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do the modeling in the metrics, that semantic layer, and then access that from either Tableau or Power BI.
Yeah.
What have you?
Or whatever, because there's APIs. So like say there's a React API for good data. So like if you want to build a React app and you want to use good data's metrics store to drive the React app, then you know that the React app and the good data BI UI and Tableau will always give the same number for the same metric.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind it.
That would be useful.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, that's again, this is like, why did I join Good Data? It's because I believe in this approach. I find it very exciting. But I also recognize, like, I agree with Gartner's cautions here. Like, it is we're working on the dashboard builder in Good Data, but it's like it's not as good as Power BI's, and so that's just what it is. We'll do a couple quick hits here, ones that I know people want me to talk about, and then we'll go ahead and you do not have to be here to win. You just have to have typed in the hashtag
into the YouTube comment.
You just have to type in the in the YouTube comment the hashtag hashtag Super Data Brothers.
Yeah, it sounds like you were driving the TKO with so many tools required. My rebuttal would be like, the tools are already there. Required or not, the tools are there.
Yeah.
So you need something, but you need some way to make them play together, would be my opinion.
Miko says, I'm a size M, ladies, thanks. She's confident she's going to win. So IBM, there's not much change here. If you've read these before for IBM, you've seen what it's pretty much what you'd expect. They do get called out for lack of data blending and in-tool ETL, but reporting is still called out as a strength. So I know a lot of my Cognos fam out there want me to talk about IBM. I mean, it just hasn't changed much, right? So what do they say about Microsoft? It's king of the status quo, high scores across the board. They do call out Microsoft in the new critical capabilities are Microsoft's weaknesses. So let me put on my strategy hat. And what do I think Microsoft's going to do? They're going to sit back, relax, let other people figure out this new path, and then they'll build it into their tooling in 2026, and they'll own it by 2030. It's exactly what they did with desktop BI. You know, they didn't rush to desktop BI. They sat back, they saw what Tableau did. They said, okay, we can do that. They went out and they built a good enough tool.
Yep, to bundle themselves to victory.
Exactly, right? So it's the Power BI playbook. But this is not Gartner saying this is their their strategy. This is me saying this is their strategy. Yeah. And then Salesforce / Tableau. They're really recognized for the great analyst experience here in the Critical Capabilities report. They're a solid overall performer, but they're called out for limited dev tools, limited analytics as code, and limited semantics, right? So that's kind of the Tableau take. And overall, I made a comment. I made a post on LinkedIn the other day, kind of making fun of Tableau because they just added the ability to use conformed dimensions within Tableau. In 2023, it's like it's 2023. Cognos has been doing like this. It's been but Tableau is the supply chain era tool. Yeah. Right. So like they didn't.
It's good. It's good. Dimensions. The visualizations are good.
Yeah, it's great. And like conformed dimensions, like that wasn't. If you go back to 2016, nobody was doing that stuff. David Marmer says he agrees with the point on Microsoft packaging, pricing, and distribution is their strategy for winning. Yeah, right. I mean, they're going to sit back and just like watch what emerges from this next wave of BI. They're not going to be first to it. They're not going to lead on it, and that's not a knock on them. They don't have to, right? The rest of us do, but they don't. So that brings us to T-shirt time. Any last thoughts on the? Before we give away the shirt, any last thoughts on the critical capabilities, Eric?
No, I think I thought it was interesting how much what they were saying is aligned with what we've been saying. Especially, what really surprised me was they called out QuickSight for paginated reporting.
Yeah,
right. It's like we called that when we did a review a month ago.
I know.
Before the Critical Capabilities report was even out. Like, I think this will be a differentiator, and there it was. So, overall, I think Critical Capabilities report really interesting. Now that I'm in a managerial position, it's like I pay way more attention to everything. So,
yeah, suddenly it's important.
Suddenly it's more important. So. Yeah, that's
all right.
That's what I've got to say. Any last words from you, Ryan? Or
no, I mean, I think it is worth understanding. I hope this was enlightening. It helped you understand the difference between the two reports, Magic Quadrant and Critical Capabilities, because they are different reports, right? And so, if what you really care about is an understanding of, from Gartner's perspective, the tools and what they can do, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you who has the best marketing or who has the most market momentum or who has the best community. All you care about is what can this software do. The Critical Capabilities report gives you that without the other stuff layered on top of it. And so let's give away our T-shirt. Let's just share the screen here. All right, are you ready? Here we go. T-shirt giveaway. Patrick Ebert, go ahead. Congratulations on winning the shirt. Go ahead and drop me your address and your size. We're based in the United States. These are U.S. sizes. The way to get a hold of me is to email ryan@superdatabrothers.com, and I will get this in the mail for your Super Data shirt. Congratulations on winning today's giveaway. All right.
Hold on one. Chris, just because multiple tools may be in place doesn't mean organizations shouldn't think about consolidation and saving money. Days of redundant legacy BI tools is long gone. I agree that the future might be reduction in number of tools, but especially as we're talking about the franchise model of analytics. As someone who works with multiple different departments, different schools at the university, a lot of groups groups inside an organization like the tool they like, and telling them they're not going to use it. I don't know how good that's gonna. That's not what they want to hear. right? And they're not
Yeah.
going to do it. They want to develop in Tableau. They want to develop in Power BI.
This is the
Right.
eternal battle.
I mean, it is. It's the struggle. It's the struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I do think to the degree you can consolidate, I think it's a good idea. And Gartner's even talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
for those of you who will be at the Gartner conference in London in a couple weeks, you'll see that Gartner, they did a great, I hope, what was her name? I'm not going to remember her name. There was a great presentation. Georgia O'Callaghan, I think it was. A great presentation about BI tool consolidation and how to do it if you're going to do it at Gartner in Gartner in Orlando, and I hope that it's on the London agenda too, because it was really choice. So, Chris, if you want to send some of your clients or prospects to that one to help convince them to consolidate onto Pyramid, I would recommend it. All right. I think that's what we have for today. I hope it was enlightening, and we will see you next week here on Super Data Show.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.